Shocking. ESPN has now confirmed what the tennis world has been watching all week. Alex Eala has become Cincinnati's biggest crowd magnet, and Filipino fans are making their presence impossible to ignore. The 21-year-old Filipina hasn't simply brought her tennis to Ohio, she has brought an entire nation with her. Nobody expected the Eala Effect to reach this level so quickly. College reunions are being planned around her matches. Fans are driving 8 hours from Toronto just to watch her again. And packed stadiums are filled with Philippine flags and passionate supporters. Even top players have taken notice of the atmosphere surrounding her. The Eala Effect has officially taken over Cincinnati, and the tennis world is stunned. ESPN had been following Eala's remarkable summer closely, and when the Cincinnati Open arrived, the network highlighted exactly what fans had already been witnessing. Eala isn't just a rising tennis star. She has become a global crowd phenomenon. She entered Cincinnati as the number 17 seed, the highest seeding of her career at a WTA 1000 event, carrying an impressive 8-1 record on North American hard courts after winning her breakthrough WTA title in Washington and reaching the round of 16 in Toronto. But her results were only part of the story. The bigger story was everything happening around her. ESPN highlighted Eala's dominant second-round performance against Elena Gabriela Ruse, where she won 71% of the points played on Ruse's first serve and an incredible 78% against her second serve. Eala won 6-3, 1-0 before Ruse retired with a right foot injury, giving the Filipina her 8th victory in 9 matches. Yet what made the coverage so significant was the attention being given to Eala's impact away from the scoreboard. ESPN pointed to her growing popularity and the potential she has to inspire more young Filipinos to pick up a tennis racket. That is where the Eala story becomes bigger than wins and losses. Her matches have become cultural events, bringing Filipino communities together and creating an atmosphere that tournament organizers simply cannot ignore. As Eala herself admitted, this has been a crazy experience. There are moments when the attention feels heavy, and there are moments when it is simply fun, but she understands just how unusual the situation has become. She is trying to take it all in while continuing to compete at the highest level. And the stories coming out of Cincinnati show exactly why the Eala Effect has become so powerful. These aren't just fans who happen to be nearby. They are supporters willing to rearrange their lives just to watch her play. Sports reporter Colin Salo shared 2 stories that perfectly captured the devotion. One group of college friends, now living in different parts of the United States, planned their entire college reunion around a trip to Cincinnati specifically to see Alex Eala compete. Think about that for a moment. They could have chosen a beach, a major city, or any traditional vacation destination. But instead they chose a tennis tournament because they wanted to see their Filipina hero in person. Then came another incredible story. One fan watched Eala at the National Bank Open in Toronto and then drove 8 hours to Cincinnati for another opportunity to see her play. 8 hours on the road, not a quick trip across town, not a short flight, but an 8-hour drive because watching Eala compete was worth every mile. And the commitment doesn't stop with travel. Tickets aren't cheap either. Prices that had started around $275 reportedly climbed as high as $470, representing a dramatic increase. Yet fans continued to show up. They were willing to spend hundreds of dollars, travel hundreds of miles, and rearrange their schedules for one reason: Alex Eala. The passion was already obvious in Toronto, where one unforgettable fan became an internet sensation. Dressed in an inflatable blue dinosaur costume with a Philippine flag draped over him like a cape, he danced, celebrated, and brought an unbelievable amount of energy to the stands. Eala noticed him, and she loved it. She later described him as the perfect fan, remembering the inflatable blue dinosaur suit and the Philippine flag that made him impossible to miss. That moment perfectly represented what is happening around Eala right now. Her supporters aren't simply watching tennis, they are creating an atmosphere. They are bringing flags, costumes, chants, energy, and pride into the stadium, turning every Eala match into something that feels much bigger than a normal tennis contest. And Cincinnati is now experiencing that same phenomenon. The Eala Effect that exploded in Washington and Toronto has followed her into Ohio, proving that her popularity is no longer limited to one city or one tournament. It is becoming a traveling movement. For Eala, the challenge now is to balance the enormous expectations with the tennis that created this attention in the first place. But if the scenes in Cincinnati are any indication, the world is only beginning to understand what Alex Eala represents. She is competing for titles and ranking points, but she is also inspiring a generation of Filipino fans who finally have a tennis star they can call their own. ESPN's coverage has now put that phenomenon on a much bigger stage. And the message is clear. Alex Eala is no longer just one of the most exciting young players in tennis. She is a crowd magnet, a source of national pride, and the center of a fan movement that is getting harder and harder for the tennis world to ignore. The dinosaur fan had already captured Alex Eala's attention during the Canadian Open, but his unforgettable celebration was still being talked about in Cincinnati. Dancing in the stands, putting his leg up on the railing, shaking it with pure excitement, and waving the Philippine flag, he became the perfect symbol of the passion surrounding Eala. Eala herself called him a legend for the way he supported her, and now the story had followed her to Cincinnati. But the creativity of Filipino fans goes far beyond costumes and celebrations. They have even created their own vocabulary for Eala's tennis. During an episode of Love All with Kim Clijsters, four-time Grand Slam champion Kim Clijsters and tennis reporter Blair Henley discussed one of the playful terms created by Eala's supporters, the now famous F***CK Eala serve, a slang expression that pokes fun at the unconventional service motion that was once one of the most criticized parts of Eala's game. Instead of being offended, Eala has learned to laugh along with her supporters. As Henley explained, the nickname represents a serve that may look unconventional, but somehow continues to get the job done. And that perfectly captures the relationship between Eala and her fans. They aren't afraid to joke about her game, celebrate her personality, and turn even the smallest details into part of the growing Eala culture. As her popularity has exploded, so has the entertainment surrounding her matches. With many of her matches taking place during the early hours of the morning in the Philippines, Filipino supporters have found creative ways to stay awake and watch their hero compete. Pinoy humor has now reached the WTA Tour, and some of the biggest names in tennis have taken notice. Rennie Stubbs, former doubles world number one and a former coach of Serena Williams, discussed the unique atmosphere surrounding Eala during the North American hardcourt swing. Stubbs explained that some commentators had noticed how many Eala supporters were relatively new to tennis and were still learning the sport's traditions and etiquette that sometimes meant fans would cheer at unusual moments or react loudly during points. But instead of criticizing them, Stubbs embraced the excitement. She compared the situation to other moments when tennis entered new markets and suddenly attracted huge numbers of passionate new fans. For Stubbs, that kind of energy is exactly what the sport needs. She said there is nothing more exciting than the atmosphere Eala creates whenever she walks onto the court. Then she revealed a remarkable moment from Toronto involving Katie McNally. According to Stubbs, after her match against Eala, McNally told her, "Thank you for letting me be a part of this." Think about how powerful that statement is. An American player had just competed against Eala in front of a crowd overwhelmingly supporting the Filipina. Yet instead of complaining about the pressure or the noise, she appreciated being part of the experience. That is the Eala Effect. It isn't simply about selling tickets or filling seats. It is about creating an atmosphere that even the players on the opposite side of the net can remember for the rest of their careers. Stubbs believes the environment surrounding Eala is something many established players rarely experience. She suggested that, outside of extraordinary moments like Serena Williams playing in New York, there are very few situations where a player can expect an atmosphere quite like the one that follows Eala. Every opponent has to be mentally prepared for it. And Stubbs made an even bigger prediction. Eala could bring an entirely new generation of young fans into tennis. The supporters who have traveled thousands of miles, organized college reunions, driven 8 hours from Toronto, created their own jokes and vocabulary, and filled stadiums with Philippine flags have already demonstrated something remarkable. They have shown the tennis world that Alex Eala is more than a player. She has become a movement, a symbol of what can happen when an entire community finds a sporting hero and rallies behind her. And as Eala prepared to face world number 10 Amanda Anisimova, that fan army was ready once again. The dinosaur fan would be cheering. The college reunion group would be waving their flags. The supporter who drove 8 hours would be there. Every voice, every flag, and every celebration would be part of the atmosphere surrounding Eala. Then Amanda Anisimova stepped onto the court at the Lindner Family Tennis Center and immediately understood what she was walking into. The American star, ranked number 10 in the world and seated 9th at the $7.4 million Cincinnati Open, had watched the Eala phenomenon grow from a distance. She had seen the viral videos, heard the stories, and understood that facing Eala meant facing much more than just another opponent. I haven't played her before. She's been having such an incredible season, incredible year, and she's a very great player with a lot of fans. So I'm really looking forward to that. Anisimova said in an interview posted by the WTA. The 24-year-old American, who had already established herself as one of the biggest names in women's tennis, knew that this match would come with an atmosphere unlike anything ordinary. Eala had earned the ranking, the victories, and the opportunity to share the court with one of the world's top players. But now she had something else too, an entire army of supporters ready to make sure the world heard them. And as the crowd began to roar, the Eala Effect entered its next chapter. Anisimova had heard all the stories. She knew that Monday night at the Lindner Family Tennis Center was going to be different. The stadium wasn't simply going to be filled with tennis fans. It was expected to be packed with Filipino supporters waving Philippine flags, chanting, celebrating, and creating an atmosphere unlike anything she had experienced against most opponents. She has a great fan base, and it looks like an incredible atmosphere every time she steps out to play a match. I'm really looking forward to it. Anisimova said. The American star even referenced the comparison Naomi Osaka had previously made about Eala's matches, describing the atmosphere as being more like a basketball game than a traditional tennis match. It was a perfect description of the energy surrounding Eala. I love a packed stadium, and I love a good atmosphere. Anisimova said, I'm sure it will be a great match, even though they're probably going to be rooting more for her, but I don't mind it, and I'll try to thrive off the energy. Anisimova had every reason to be confident. She was ranked number 10 in the world, had reached the finals of Wimbledon and the US Open in 2025, and had already won major WTA 1000 titles. She had been a teenage sensation herself, winning the 2017 US Open Girls Singles title and later making a deep run at the 2019 French Open. On paper, the experience and resume clearly favored the American. But there was one factor that rankings could not measure: Alex Eala's momentum. The Filipina had already defeated 7 top 10 players during the season, including major names such as Iga Swiatek, Elena Rybakina, Coco Gauff, and Jessica Pegula. She had also arrived in Cincinnati after an incredible run in Washington, where she defeated several players who had previously stood in her way. And now she had thousands of supporters ready to turn Cincinnati into another home crowd. I know that it's probably going to be a very packed stadium. I'm sure it will be really fun. Anisimova said, Her admiration for Eala and her supporters wasn't new either. Earlier in the year, when Anisimova watched Eala compete at the Dubai Tennis Championships, she had already praised the Filipinos' incredible fan base and her representation of the Philippines. She even stayed courtside to watch Eala's match because she wanted to experience the atmosphere for herself. That tells you everything about how unusual the Eala phenomenon had become. The atmosphere Anisimova was anticipating was the same atmosphere that had stunned tournament organizers across North America. It was the atmosphere that helped turn Eala's matches into major events, the atmosphere that Rennie Stubbs described as something most players rarely experience, perhaps comparable only to the incredible crowds Serena Williams received in New York. Every time you play Alex Eala, Stubbs warned, you have to be mentally prepared for that environment. And now, Anisimova was about to experience it firsthand. The Lindner Family Tennis Center was becoming Barangay Eala, with Philippine flags filling the stands and fans, creating a home court atmosphere for their favorite player. But what exactly is the Eala Effect, and why has it spread through the tennis world so quickly? The answer goes far beyond tennis. ESPN has been documenting Eala's rise throughout the season, highlighting how she has become one of the sport's most popular young players and how her matches are attracting fans who may have never previously attended a tennis tournament. Her breakthrough run in Miami helped put her on the map, but what happened afterward turned that success into something much bigger. At Indian Wells, for example, Filipino fans were already lining up outside the stadium long before Eala's match. Some arrived more than a day in advance, carrying Philippine flags and wearing shirts celebrating their favorite player. Even when delays pushed her match into a freezing desert evening, many supporters refused to leave. They stayed bundled in coats and blankets, waiting to cheer Eala until the very end. For Eala, that support meant everything. She later explained how much it meant to see her community willing to stay awake, endure the cold, and remain in the stands just to support her. Those moments were becoming part of the Eala legend. Then Jessica Pegula experienced it herself. When Pegula faced Eala during her breakout run in Miami, she was stunned by the crowd reaction. Pegula was playing in her home region, yet the entire stadium seemed to be supporting Eala. She later recalled wondering where all those fans had suddenly come from. That was the moment many people realized something unusual was happening. Eala wasn't simply attracting Filipino tennis fans. She was creating a community around her matches. And now that phenomenon had reached Cincinnati. ESPN had highlighted Eala as the tournament's biggest crowd magnet, emphasizing that her impact extends beyond victories and ranking points. Her ability to connect with young Filipino fans could potentially bring an entirely new generation into tennis. That is why the Eala Effect matters. It isn't just about one player selling more tickets. It is about culture, identity, representation, and the power of seeing someone who looks like you competing on one of the biggest stages in the world. The fans who traveled across states, drove 8 hours from Toronto, organized college reunions, stayed awake through the night, stood in freezing temperatures, created their own jokes, and filled stadiums with Philippine flags have demonstrated something that tennis cannot ignore. Alex Eala has become more than a competitor. She has become a movement. And as she prepared to face world number 10 Amanda Anisimova in Cincinnati, the tennis world wasn't simply waiting to see who would win the match. Everyone was waiting to see what the crowd would do, because the biggest question surrounding Alex Eala was no longer whether she belonged on the biggest stages. She had already proven that. The question was how much bigger this phenomenon could become. What does the Eala Effect mean for the future of tennis? The answer could be revolutionary. Eala has shown that tennis doesn't always have to be quiet and reserved. It can be loud, emotional, cultural, and deeply personal. Her supporters have transformed ordinary matches into celebrations of Filipino pride, and a 21-year-old player from the Philippines has become one of the most talked about attractions on the WTA Tour. The signs are everywhere. From Washington to Toronto, from Indian Wells to Cincinnati, the same pattern keeps repeating. Eala arrives, the fans follow, and the atmosphere changes. ESPN has now put its weight behind what thousands of fans have already known for months. Alex Eala is a major crowd magnet, and her Filipino fan army is becoming impossible to ignore. But perhaps the most important part of the Eala Effect is what happens next. If these fans continue showing up, if more young Filipinos become interested in tennis, and if Eala continues climbing the rankings, this could become much bigger than one extraordinary season. It could change the way an entire generation sees tennis. And that is why, as Alex Eala walked onto the court in Cincinnati with thousands of Philippine flags surrounding her, the match against Amanda Anisimova felt like more than just another WTA contest. It felt like the beginning of something much bigger. ESPN's coverage made one thing clear. The importance of Alex Eala goes far beyond the court and into her ability to inspire young Filipinos to discover tennis. The Eala Effect isn't simply about filling stadiums. It's about building a legacy. As the Daily Tribune has described it, wherever Filipinos gather to watch Eala compete, a virtual homeland seems to appear around her. In Miami, New York, Melbourne, Dubai, London, Toronto, and now Cincinnati, Filipino supporters arrive carrying flags, signs, chants, families, and phones ready to capture every moment. The phenomenon is deeply connected to Filipino identity abroad. The sense of belonging shared by people living outside the Philippines while maintaining strong emotional, family, and cultural connections to their homeland and to other Filipinos around the world. Eala gives that identity a young, female, and truly global face. She carries Filipino pride through her words, her gestures, and the symbols she uses. After defeating Madison Keys in Miami, she thanked her supporters in Filipino. After another late match in Dubai, she playfully acknowledged the fans who had stayed awake to watch her. At Wimbledon, Filipino messaging appeared on her visor, creating another small but powerful connection with supporters around the world. These gestures matter because the relationship works both ways. The fans are telling Eala, "You are not alone." And when she responds in their language, she is telling them, "I see you." For many Filipinos living overseas, daily life can mean being defined by their jobs, immigration status, or minority identity. But inside an Eala crowd, they become something else, a visible, confident sporting community united behind one athlete. That is what makes the Eala Effect so powerful. The fan army that transformed Cincinnati into something resembling a home court had shown the tennis world that Alex Eala wasn't simply a player. She had become a movement and a symbol of what can happen when a community finds a voice and refuses to be ignored. Even the biggest names in women's tennis have recognized what Eala is bringing to the sport. Coco Gauff, the world number 4 and reigning U.S. Open champion, welcomed the new audience Eala is attracting to the WTA. Gauff praised the way Eala is bringing a completely different demographic to women's tennis and called her a great role model for people to look up to. Rennie Stubbs has made an even bigger prediction, saying Eala could bring huge numbers of young children into tennis and help the sport grow for years to come. Stubbs also revealed that Katie McNally, after losing to Eala in front of a crowd overwhelmingly supporting the Filipina, thanked Eala for allowing her to be part of the experience. That moment says everything. The atmosphere surrounding Eala can be so powerful that even an opponent can walk away appreciating the experience. Stubbs believes players who have been on tour for years may rarely have experienced anything comparable, perhaps outside of the extraordinary crowds Serena Williams received in New York. Every time an opponent plays Eala, Stubbs explained, they have to be mentally prepared for that environment. Eala herself understands that the spotlight comes with enormous responsibility. She has admitted that there are moments when the attention feels heavy and other moments when it is simply fun, but she knows how extraordinary the experience has become. She also understands that none of it would exist without the work she put in long before the crowds arrived. The victories, The training, the sacrifices, the difficult matches, and the years of preparation created the foundation for everything happening now. And she knows that if she wants to continue experiencing these moments, she has to keep doing the work. That mindset may be the most important part of the entire story, because the Eala Effect isn't just about packed stadiums, viral videos, or thousands of Philippine flags. It is about what happens when success on the court creates something meaningful off it. It is about a young Filipina athlete giving millions of people around the world someone to cheer for, someone to identify with, and someone to believe in. It is about inspiring children who may have never imagined themselves playing tennis to pick up a racket for the first time. It is about showing that tennis doesn't belong to one country, one culture, or one type of fan. The Cincinnati crowd was simply the latest chapter in a story that appears to be getting bigger every week. The next major test will come at the US Open, where Eala will once again step onto one of the biggest stages in tennis with an army of supporters behind her. After that, the calendar will continue with more tournaments, more challenges, and potentially even bigger moments ahead. The tennis world may be stunned by what has happened so quickly, but for Filipino fans, this is only the beginning. Alex Eala is still just 21 years old, and the most remarkable part of this entire phenomenon may be that she hasn't reached her ceiling yet. She is still climbing, still improving, and still creating moments that attract new fans to the sport. The question now isn't whether the Eala Effect is real. That has already been answered. The real question is how far it can go. Can it transform the way the WTA connects with new audiences? Can it inspire a new generation of Filipino tennis players? Can Eala turn this incredible fan movement into a lasting legacy? The answers will unfold with every tournament, every match, and every roar from the stands. One thing is certain, the Filipinos are roaring, the tennis world is watching, and Alex Eala is only getting started. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Eala Effect and what it could mean for the future of tennis, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more tennis stories, major moments, and the biggest developments from the world of sports. And let us know in the comments, have you ever seen a fan movement quite like the one following Alex Eala? Is the tennis world ready for the Eala Effect?